Yeah, it's cool, right? Well, thank you for coming. It's great to see everyone in here. It's I've played probably only a third of them. Everyone played every single game on that list, right? It's insane. 2017 was a huge year for games. It was Steam Spy just on games on Steam had over 7,000 games. That's crazy. And it's because of you guys. So thank you very much. So it's a lot of fun. We actually did this cool exercise where we grabbed every title, the games this year. It just keeps going and going and going, right? So 2017, huge year. And what we're trying to do is make 2018 even better. We've got a bunch of cool stuff already coming. We've got a lot of really neat announcements we're going to make this today. But what I find most interesting about lists like this is that, obviously every one of these games are 3D using our stuff. And so we have a really big impact on trying to make sure that, your lives are better. So when we look at what we can do, as game developers, I spent 10 years at EA, so I've been in the trenches, I get it. You're always battling this idea of like, how much quality can I fit into the game, right? And trying to push, iterate, make it better and better and better, all while the clock's ticking, right? And whether you're at a big studio or a little studio, you still have your deadlines and ship dates and day one patches, and all these things are compressing how much stress you have, basically, and trying to make sure that you have the balance of good quality, to hit those deadlines, right? And so today is all about trying to make sure that we can help you with that. So we got 4 topics, and I'm going to try to get out of the way quickly so the other guys can spend some time and actually talk some really cool stuff. But the theme for us today is about connected workflows, trying to make sure that you're connected to your content better so you can iterate and you can make better quality visuals, making sure that our stuff works with all the third parties. So obviously we're not the only one in the pipeline, I guess you could call it, the ecosystem. So we want to make sure that we're open, and we've got a bunch of cool topics that we'll be talking about like that. And it's not just third-party plugins or software, it's also obviously the engines as well. So we got a good section about that today and several other sessions later where we're really making sure that that flow between art to engine and back is as seamless as possible. And finally, you also have to work with teams, right? And whether you're a 2-person indie shop, you still got to work with somebody all the way up to the big studio. So we've got a bunch of really cool stuff to help with all that, right? But for me, what's more interesting for Dev Days is not PowerPoint and talking about themes. It's actually showing you some really cool stuff. So I'm really excited because Max 2019 drops this week, and we're going to get Laurent Gilbert up here to talk to you about how they're working with making a whole bunch of cool stuff, not only for Max, but also with the plugins and the community that they work with. So come on up here, and let's get this thing going.
Thank you, TJ. Hi, everyone. So I'm happy to be here today, and we're going to be talking about Max. I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing recently to be working more closely with third-party developers to make your life easier when you migrate to a new version of 3ds Max. But just before getting there, I'd like to explain to you a little more about how the product team is working with 3ds Max. Most of the team is based in Montreal for the 3ds Max development. And this picture has been taken from an event we are having every year, where we're basically finding everybody in town and talking about what's next for 3ds Max and trying to think about the different things we need to do. And I'm very proud to be working with that talented team of people. And we're also very excited to enable you to make great games. But in order to get there and to enable you to get that creative intent going on, we need to connect with actually what is your feedback and what you need from the product. Oops, I'm having a slight change here. No worries. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is ideas and how we actually get the feedback we need from you guys for 3ds Max. So we have, as part of our public forums, an ideas section where you can basically post your ideas and tell us about what you do need for your pipeline and what are the things that actually you need for 3ds Max to get better at. And that's a section that we're nurturing very closely, and we're trying to get getting into all those ideas and select them and trying to make sure that we can pick up the things that are right for you to enable your production pipeline. And last year, we've been able to select and implement and deliver to you over 15 ideas representing more than 400 votes. So that's a very active section where you can get there, post your ideas, vote on all those ideas, and let us know what is important for you. And those ideas might be small things or big things. For example, in the last year, we've been delivering, so one of the ideas was, hey, I want a built-in fluid system engine in Max. So that was one of the ideas we've been able to implement. And there are other ideas that are smaller, like animation tools improvements or UI settings across monitor, that kind of things. So it's a nice place for us to understand really what you need. There are other ways that also gets us to be connected with you guys. And we're having a couple of channels for this to happen. The very first thing is something we call inside the factory. The factory is basically the product factory. So we're basically inviting some of the users to the office and basically interacting and trying to find out what is exactly that you need, what is your context when you're working, and trying to connect that with what the agile teams are building for the software. The second thing that we do is we have a private beta community that you can ask to be in. So you can jump in and get connected to the development team. We have over 1,000 beta users for 3ds Max. And it's a very active community and having interaction with the development team on a daily basis. Some of them are even able to assess basically our sprint reviews and really get deeply connected with the development team. So that's a great way to be connected. Another part of another channel that we have to be connected is our public forums. It's an incredibly active community in there. You can get, talk about the different problems you have, get connected and get help from the community. We have that section that's actually booming these days. We're having 2 times more posts in the last quarter than we had last year. So it's a great place so that you can exchange with your peers and solve your problems and get connected also with the development team. And the last thing that we're used to do very often is basically flying to your studio and trying to get into your environment and understanding how you work and what is your context so that we can make the product better, a better fit for you. So all those things and all those channels allows us to get a lot of feedback. And we've we've been having, we want to improve on how we integrate that feedback into the product and deliver to you more frequently. And so what we used to do with Autodesk Max is basically having a big yearly release that we used to deliver, and then some smaller patches and fixes along the year to support some quality issues. But there are two main problems with this. The first one is we have a slow feedback loop with that kind of releases because we have a sort of big plan for a year, and then it's hardly flexible, and we can't really reintegrate your feedback in. And the second issue is quality. When you have a big splash release with a lot of new things in it, it's very hard to maintain that quality problem. So what we've been doing to overcome those challenges is basically embrace regular updates for the product. And what you're going to see, and what you have seen in the past maybe, is that now we're delivering those smaller updates that are bringing fixes, but also new capabilities all along the years in smaller drops. And what that means is smaller drops is also better quality and more regular up-to-date software. And I'm going to illustrate that with what we've been doing with Autodesk Max 2018. In the last year, for 2018, we've been able, over the span of 10 months, to deliver 4 updates on top of Autodesk Max 2018. And those updates contain a lot of things, fixes, but also new capabilities. So 2018 got the addition of Arnold, for example. And with those regular drops of updates, we've been able to roll in all the different plugins updates that Arnold was delivering to us. We've been able, like I mentioned earlier, to deliver a full built-in fluid simulation system inside 3ds Max. As part of those updates, we also revamped entirely the automation experience with 3ds Max, with 3ds Max Batch for backend deployment of 3ds Max. We also rolled out 3ds Max Interactive to edit your content in VR. We've been able to deliver some improvement of our animation tools, modeling, and we had some targeted area where we did improve the quality, like the UV workflows, or sometimes some minor things that you need for your day-to-day work, like straight poly extrusions. And global quality for 3ds Max is part of this concept of updates by design. It's smaller drops, they're more stable, and overall, we've been able to deliver to you over 550 fixes. So now I'd like to talk to you about the next update for 3ds Max. I'm very proud to announce 3ds Max 2019 is coming to you this week. So that's a great thing. And 3ds Max 2019 is wrapping up all those updates together and also brings in some additional things. So in 3ds Max 2019, you're going to get a bunch of new capabilities on top of all those updates. First of all is a new OSL map. OSL stands for Open Shading Language. It's a nice way to basically have shaders that's going to be easily interpretable with other content creation tools. There's about 100 samples that are available straight out of the box. We also have a new advanced procedural wood textures with interesting wood presets that's going to be available. There is also something that is very nice in 3ds Max 2019 in the modeling area. We have shape booleans that is going to be available. So basically, it's a nice way to combine complex shape systems into nice objects in a non-destructive way. So basically, all your splines are being stacked up as Boolean operations, and you can get back at any time to the different operands and modify the content so that you're going to get exactly the creative intent you were looking for. We have also an update to 3ds Max Interactive. So working in VR in your scene is easier than ever. You have new snapping tools and placement tools that allows you to create that content and sync up with 3ds Max. We've been also working on project folder structures. It was pretty hard to work with project structures in Max. It was hardly flexible. So now we made it more customizable, so you can shape the project folder structure to exactly what your project needs, and loading 3ds Max files will actually select the right project automatically. We've been improving our support for Alembic so that you can interchange and interrupt those animation in between different content creation tools. We also introduced shared views, which is basically a way for you to select some content from your scene, send it out to the Autodesk Online Viewer, and share it with someone that might not have 3ds Max installed for review. And for review. We also did a lot of fixes in the UI globally and some new improvements with some tooltips. And we also have a certain number of fixes that are coming down your way. So Autodesk Max 2019 is your next update to migrate to. But there are two challenges that we're constantly facing when we talk to you about, when is the right time to actually upgrade your pipeline to a new version of Autodesk Max. There are two things that are getting in your way all the time. The first one is quality. You might always, you want and you expect a better quality when you get a new version, a new drop of the software. And that's why we changed our approach with those smaller updates that we can deliver all along the year that are inherently having an increasing amount of quality. That's the first thing. The second thing is you actually need the plugins that you have deployed in your pipeline in order to migrate to a new version of Autodesk Max. And this availability of plugin it's a huge problem, and we got a lot from the different feedback channels. We get a lot of demand for Autodesk Max, the Autodesk Max team, to actually get closer to the third-party developers. And this year, we've been working with over 20 developers more closely to bring the plugins you need. Yeah, there you go. So to provide you with the plugins you need as soon as possible after the release of Autodesk Max 2019. And those include developers like V-Ray, Corona, those rendering engine, Final Render. We've also been working with some third-party developers in the productivity category with plugins such as FirstPack, Substance, Thinking Particle, Unreal, or even the 3D connection drivers you need for your 3D mouse. We have some pipeline tools also that's going to be available very soon, including Deadline, and some utilities. And I'd like to say a big thanks to David Baker from Autodesk Max Plugin.de that maintains a lot of plugins for Autodesk Max. So overall, in the same week as Autodesk Max 2019, we've been able to get to you more than 150 plugins already supporting Autodesk Max 2019 right straight with the release. So with those three things, basically an increasing amount of quality over time, and those smaller drops and those updates increasing the level of quality of Autodesk Max over time, the faster turnaround on new feedback and new ideas that we can reintegrate into the product faster and deliver to you as soon as possible, and the availability of the plugins that you have deployed in your production pipeline, I think that you're going to be able to get the latest and greatest Autodesk Max exactly at the moment that your pipeline is ready to be migrated. So now I'd like to introduce Laurent Simet, product manager at Autodesk, that we will be talking about the collaboration between Unity and Autodesk. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you very much, Laurent. That was really cool, actually. So speaking of connected workflows, I want to talk to you today about our relationship and the work being done across Autodesk and Unity. So Autodesk products like Mudbox, Maya, Max, Motion Builder have been used in concert for years with Unity and other applications to produce some classic games like you see here. But we all know it's not about the software. These are just tools for artists and developers to make awesome games. And so when we talked to a lot of these developers and artists, we heard a very common theme. And that theme was, it is painful to get data from the DCC to the game engine. And this was making people sad. And I'm getting the sense it makes you sad too. So we thought, okay, we really need to focus on this. So the way we look at the problem is that our products, Autodesk products, really sit in an ecosystem of applications that you use every day to make the games you make. And our goal became, how can we provide better support for this ecosystem to make it work better and to work together? And our initial focus here was to work with Unity, to be able to get data back and forth between Unity, Max, and Maya through FBX in a better way. So we struck an agreement with Unity and have been working with them. This was announced back at Unite in 2017 in Austin. And the goals that we set out fundamentally first was to allow you to better use the best app and workflow for the job. You shouldn't have to say, oh, I'd love to go do this in this application, but I can't because I'm not sure if it's going to come across into the game engine. We also recognize the fact that more and more you're collaborating. So many of you may be working on a game on your laptop alone, but a lot of you are working in teams, sometimes globally. And while large companies, studios, and larger game development efforts can have development teams that can build complex data management pipelines, not everybody can. And so this is an important thing we wanted to keep in mind. And our goal here was that if we are successful, you should be able to focus more on making games and not have to think about interop. We don't want to have this conversation, ultimately. One of the developers we talked to was Nordeus Games. So Nordeus is a mobile gaming company. They're based in beautiful Belgrade, Serbia. And with a team of 166 people from 20 nationalities, they make mobile games. They're really cool games. Some of them include Top 11, which is the world's most successful mobile sports game, and Spell Soul's Duel of Legends. And so Nordeus, you may have seen this demo. So Nordeus produced this really cool demo at Unite 2017, and basically what this showed off was having thousands of agents and blowing them up. And that was really awesome, and we thought that was really cool. So we reached out to Nordeus, and we talked to Nenad Nesovic. And if you stick around for our next session, Nenad will join us, and he's going to go into details on how they solved the interop problem to produce this awesome demo at Unite. But the interesting thing was the theme of the conversation we had with Nordeus was that while they were excited and happy that they solved a lot of these problems, they didn't want to. They didn't want to have to do that work. They were looking to us and Unity to help solve that problem. So when we told them about the work we were doing, they responded this way: Autodesk and Unity teaming up and improving interop will be a huge time saver for me. You can read the rest, but our goal here is really to live up to Nenad's expectations. So here's what's been done. And I'm going to give you a very quick recap here. If you want more details on the work that's been done across Autodesk and Unity, the next Dev Day session is going to go into great detail. We're going to have guys from the Unity team here and the Nordeus team showing off what they've done. So if this is important to you, I encourage you to stick around. But here's the gist. So if you go to the Unity Assets Store, you can download the FBX exporter. It works in Max, Maya, MyLT with Unity 2017.2 and above. And the idea behind this plugin is to provide a round-trip workflow. And we really love this concept because it's not just about getting the data into Unity from wherever it goes. That data is going to come from multiple sources, different places, and it might leave the game engine, go back into the DCC, get changed, hand off to somewhere else. So what the Unity team built, and that we're going to show off in the next session, and also please check out the Unity sessions because they show this off in detail, was something that made it much easier to just move the data to the app you need when you need it. Here's a really quick demo. So often you're very quickly testing out gameplay. You build something rough, you apply game object data. This is a collider, this has the sound. You start testing your game. With the new plugin, you can now convert this to a linked prefab instance. You get an FBX exported that has metadata that says this is who I am, this is the metadata I need. There's a plugin that lets you import this directly into Maya. And thanks to the magic of TV, someone's already built out that bridge. You can now shade with the Stingray PBR shader, which lets you preview in Unity now. And in one click, you export. And there it is back in the game. And you can go play test. You want to make a change? Someone's working back in Maya, or artist goes back to Maya, make a change, hit that button once. So no presets, not worrying about settings, not worrying about file paths. It's one click that takes a lot of the points of failure out of the process. What's really cool is this works for animation as well. So here's a zombie animated with mocap. In Unity, you can now use this plugin to export that FBX, import that into Maya. You get shading now. And what we know Maya is a great tool for modifying animation. We're using human IK tools here and animation layers to build on top of the mocap that was done. One click, back in the game engine. So, we're pretty excited about this. What do you guys think? Does this look useful? Yeah? Cool. Good. So yeah, please stick around. Next Dev Day session, we're going to go into detail, check out the Unity sessions. We're really excited to work with the Unity guys. They've been awesome. We have meetings with them regularly, so this has been a great experience. But just to quickly summarize, you got support for 3D Studio Max, Maya, and Maya LT. You can quickly gray box in Unity, export that out, modify, replace, update, get it back into the game engine, maintaining your game object data in one click. And what's really cool is that the team at Unity has been continually updating this plugin, adding new support for new data types. Things like cameras and lights are coming, more support for animation is coming. So this just keeps getting better. So I appreciate your time, and I encourage you to check out the next session. And I will invite Mr. James Pycock to the stage to talk about Shotgun. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, thank you. Shotgun. So you may be less familiar with Shotgun than with some of the other tools that we've been discussing so far, like Max and Maya. Shotgun is a tool that helps studios manage the increasing complexity of productions and projects. It provides tools for producers to help them plan, schedule, and track. It provides tools for supervisors and artists in the cycle of review, feedback, and iteration. And fairly uniquely, it does that in a single integrated environment. It also provides tools that allows artists to stay focused within their app, like Maya, by having a deep embedded experience inside of those apps. It's been adopted by more than 1,300 of the greatest studios. In film and TV, some of the work that we all love has been produced using Shotgun. But it's also increasingly being adopted by game studios. And that's led us to invest specifically in features that make sense to game studios. And we want to preview some of those here today. Just before we get into the technology that we're previewing for the first time here today, just a little bit more background on Shotgun. So as I mentioned, for a producer, it allows the creation of the tasks and the assignment of tasks and the dates and the scheduling and the planning and the replanning. And it allows that to be done at scale. While for artists, it allows them to share media and for that cycle of review and feedback and iteration, and to do that cycle in a managed and tracked environment that connects both the business side of the studio and the production side of the studio. And then finally, as I mentioned, it has deep integration with the apps that artists use. So, for example, inside of Maya, you can see a Shotgun panel that provides an artist with the latest information, activities, notes, access to the latest version, etc., so that an artist can load up the latest version, make the changes that they want to make inside of Maya, and when they're ready, publish that back into the project with all of the associated metadata and tracking information. So as I mentioned, there's increasing adoption of shotgun inside of game studios. And that's why we want to preview today for the first time a number of features that we've specifically worked on for the games industry. One of these is around Jira and an integration between Shotgun and Jira. And the other is version 2 of a feature we've been working on called Production Insights. So Jira is really around this connected workflow, being able to keep production data in sync between Shotgun and Jira. So if you're a studio and you have people who are keen to stay working in Jira and you also adopt Shotgun, then we're going to create a bridge between those two pieces of software so that if you add data or you make a change inside of Shotgun, it has a bidirectional sync into Jira. And similarly, if you make a change in Jira, that then syncs back into Shotgun so that everybody in the studio can stay in sync. The other thing that we're previewing today here for the first time is version 2 of a capability that we call Production Insights. So we recently released version 1 of Production Insights, which was a set of data visualizations for the data that is inside of Shotgun. For example, if I want to see the ratio of things that are in progress versus the ratio of things that are waiting to start, or if I want to see the number of versions on a per asset basis, or if I want to see the distribution of tasks across departments. What we're keen to do now is to take that up to the next level. And the way in which we're going to take that to the next level is to provide to provide insights across time. So for the first time, you're going to be able to see not only the ratio of things that are in progress versus waiting to start, but that ratio over time, over the timeline of a project. And to segment that time into meaningful units like sprints and milestones, etc. And we're also adding in the ability to define what your aspiration is, what your goal is here, so that you can create things like burn down charts, see the actual burn down over time relative to your intention. So those are two features that we've invested in recently, which we're previewing here, which are really very heavily focused on providing what you need in a game studio. What we're also previewing here for the first time is a new REST API, which will allow, we have one fan anyway, the REST API, which will allow you to integrate with Shotgun in whatever your chosen programming language is. We're also about to release a great piece of functionality here that we call calculated fields, so that you can not only store your data inside of Shotgun, but you can set up automatic calculations to happen on that data. For example, if you want to compare bid and actual, or you wanted to have a multiplication of a day rate versus the number of days, etc. You can set that up inside of Shotgun. And then finally, the new kind of capability that we're taking out of beta now is around language support. So we want to support studios operating globally, and so we're adding Japanese and Chinese capabilities into Shotgun. So that's a quick overview of some of the new things that we're previewing here in GDC for the first time. If you'd like to find out more about Shotgun, we have two amazing sessions later on this afternoon. We have a deep dive into Shotgun from John Jones, who has a long history working in game studios and is an expert in Shotgun, who can walk through specifically how to get value out of Shotgun for your studio and answer any questions that you may have. And then later on in the afternoon, we have a session where you don't have to take our word for it. We have 3 great studios who are going to present on how they're using Shotgun in their productions and in their studios. So with that, I'll hand back to TJ for more information on connected workflows.
Awesome, good job.
Thanks, TJ. Thanks, Nick. Cheers.
So you can see we have some really cool stuff in the works. Makes my job really easy because it's like getting out to go visit people and deliver good news is always fun. I wanted to end today with 2 really cool tech previews. This is stuff that we haven't shipped, obviously, so just a word of caution there. Obviously, we're a public company, it's a tech preview, but it's so cool I wanted to share it with you. So first one for us is this, a pop quiz. What does an eyebrow, an ocean, let's say donkey lips, and a wing, what do they all have in common? Of course, yeah, it's an easy answer, right? It's wire deformers. It's top of your mind. You're like, so wire deformers currently, they're useful, but not a lot of people use them, right? Because they are always traditionally really slow. I'm super excited to say in our beta right now, we're able to get up to about 14 times faster, right? So something like an ocean here, be super cool to be able to draw a curve, which is a wire deformer is, and pull and make a wave shape, but you traditionally would never do that. But now we're talking about like VR speeds directly in the software. So super useful stuff. If you're a rigger, you'd be like, what? I take it not too many riggers in the room. Well, yeah, right, thank you, right? And my friend, 100% backwards compatible. So if you already had a rig with wires, it just got faster. So super cool. But here's the other one this is our mic drop moment. How many of you are animators? All right, how many of you know an animator? Ah, there we go. I have to keep my hand up because I'm married to one, so I hear it a lot. But we've got a serious problem with animation. It's true. So we like I said, we're fortunate. We get to work with literally everyone in the industry, and we go all over, and we've been watching people work. We started asking the question, how long does someone take during a day to do play blasts, right? And what we found was on average that when we actually sat there and timed people, they were taking, they'd work for about 5 minutes, and then they'd do a play blast, right? And that play blast between, doing the actual play blast, which is previewing your animation, and then going to Facebook, and then context switching back, that costs about 2 minutes, right? So unless you're Facebook, that's not good news. And so for us, we're like, well, maybe we can help fix that, right? Because when you add that up, it's like 2 minutes, not a big deal, whatever. I'm on Twitter or whatever at that same time, no big deal. But when you add that up, the fancy math here is that's about 2 hours a day, right? And so for all those people you had your hand up for, that's 2 hours every day that they've lost, right? And frankly, that sucks. So we wanted to fix that. So we said, okay, well, why did people even do this, right? And we started going through, and obviously, the real guts of the reason is that you need to see your work, and you need to see it consistently, and Maya's just not fast enough to do that, right? And so the solutions today are simple scenes, or simplify your rig, or do LODs, or do all these different things to sort of make Maya as fast as possible. But we thought, well, what if we asked the question a bit differently, and what if Maya was just fast enough that you could just hit play, right? Especially if you're making a play blast from one angle is just essentially a movie, right? So you have to then do another one from a different angle, and if you want to see your attack cycle, you've got to look at it from all kinds of different angles, right? So I'm super proud to announce today something we're calling cached playback. And so what we get here is traditionally Maya on the left side, you're sitting about 5 frames a second type thing. That's 2014. In the last couple years, we've done a lot of work to sort of this is the worst word ever, parallelize Maya. We made Maya not serial, right? But what you see on the right is what we're super excited about. We're able to do with cached playback crazy frame rates, right? So you no longer have to go and hit play blast, wait the 2 minutes, come back. You can just keep working, and you can see it from different angles. It's live, it's ready to go. And so the way it works, and the goal for this was to get out of the way of the animator, right? So it should work in the background all the time, should give me a constant, whatever I'm working at, 30 or whatever my frame rate is. I want to have a consistently high frame rate that doesn't interrupt the animator. And so as you can see here in this scene, that blue bar fills up. And this is still beta software, so we're still working on the way it looks and how it interacts. And so this is sneak preview to our 200 closest friends. But you can see here, as he's working, if he just updates the elbow, it only recalculates the elbow, right? And so as she's doing her work here, you can see that consistently they can hit play and just keep going, right? So this is super exciting for us because now you're in a world where, again, that's 2 hours a day that you just gave someone back, right? So I expect no more of this delayed ships, no more pre-order. I want to play my games. Day one patch, come on. So I can't just show you this and walk away because there are some caveats here, right? So the first thing, I mean, I'm a simple guy, I came from the country, so I try to rationalize the tech into a bucket, right? So the cache is a bucket. Once it's full, you're good, right? So, but in order to fill that bucket, traditionally, like I said, Maya was serial, and we did a lot of work to make it get faster. So what that means basically in this example is that we've got one hose filling the bucket, doing all the math, and once it's good and full, you're good to go. And so we did a lot of work to make it parallel, right? So it's a big deal for if you're working in older versions of Maya coming to newer versions, or if you haven't looked at your rig to make it parallel friendly, it's important that you do because that affects your fill rate so that your parallel evaluation and the cache together really make your project sing, right? And of course, it's hardware dependent. So, I mean, I don't sell RAM, but it might be interesting conversation for people that do. But if the more hardware, whether it's graphics card or RAM that you've got in your box, the better this will perform, of course. And it's scene dependent, and I'm sure there's 20 other things that the legal team wants me to put on here as well. But here's the really, really cool part. We want you to try it. So we're actually announcing this not just to show off and flaunt like 2 hours awesome. We want you to go to our area webpage. We'll have a post. You can request access. And we want you to get in there and mess with it because before I ship it, I want to catch your bugs. And I want to make sure, just like we talked about earlier, that we're making a product that's stable from day one, right away. Right? And again, this is super exciting stuff. So if you weren't the person to put it in your hand for the first time, make sure you're telling the friend that you put your hand up for, right? Now, we've obviously worked with a bunch of different studios. We want you to get that 2 hours back. Oh, I'm coming back because I thought I had another slide here. We had a quote on it. It's not in here. But the quote that I was going to show you is that we've been working with a bunch of different studios. The EA DICE team out in Sweden, the guys that make Battlefield and Star Wars Battlefront and stuff, they were playing with this and got 190 frames a second. And so when we came through and toured and said, no, just try it, as a friend, and then we finished our tour of Europe and got back, I already had a bunch of emails saying, I want this, we got to figure this out. So again, we want you to sign up, we want you to try it and help us get to a point where it's solid and we're good to go, because 2 hours is a big deal. Cool? Thank you.